Okay, so when you go to draw an angle, I think you guys probably know how to do that, but we're going to be drawing them around the axes, and we're going to always start here at the vertex, at the origin, and then this is going to be what we call the initial side. So like an angle is made of two rays, and that one going off to the right is going to be the initial side. If you go this direction counterclockwise, that's going to be a positive angle, keeping in mind that this is theta, and theta is representative of an angle. Okay, if you rotate this way to get where you're going, clockwise, then you're going to have to pay attention to a negative, put a negative there. And so that is directional. Just like when you get to physics, it'll tell you which direction you're going, positive or negative velocity. So for us, positive angles rotate that way and negatives rotate this way. Now you need some landmarks that are familiar to you, like that's 90 degrees, 180, 270. And not only is this 0, but it's also 360, so that when you go to graph something, you know where to stop. So if I had a theta of, let's make it easy, 60 degrees, I would know that I should go positive and then stop closer to 90 than here. So you're going to be doing the best you can. And you're going to draw like a little arrow showing which direction you went to get there. And then that's going to be your 60-degree angle. This side where it ends is called the terminal side. So you have some vocabulary. And if you do watch the notes, you're going to see that there's a whole list of vocabulary at the beginning of the lesson. Terminal side, initial side. And so a lot of what you're going to be doing is just graphing those angles. Say that you're asked to graph a negative 210. Now that's not as familiar, and it's going to be a little bit trickier for you to think through, but this would be negative 90. This would be negative 180. This would be negative 270 because I'm just going the opposite direction. And so with 210, I know that I start over here because you always do. So this is my initial side, but I'm rotating this direction, and I'm going to pass 180 by 30 degrees and then draw my line in. So this angle, and I need that little rotating piece to show that I went this way instead of going that way. And that would be a negative 210-degree angle. We are working ourselves up towards something called the unit circle, where you have to go around and around this way and that way and find your location. So we're really just practicing that right now. So that's the first main concept, is understanding how to draw the angles. What gets a little bit tricky is, let's say you had to draw something that was, I'm just going to try to make this less messy if I can. Say you had to draw something that was 400 degrees. Okay, well, clearly 400 degrees is greater than once around. So then what you have to do, and the only way that your angle is drawn properly, is you have your initial side. It's positive, so I head up. That's going to be 360 so far. And then I would go 40 more. And so in the end, I've gone a total of 400 degrees. And this is a 400-degree angle, even though it looks exactly like a 40-degree angle, because I used up 360 degrees to go this far, and then I had to go an additional 40 to get to that correct stopping point. So that's our next concept. That's coterminals. But this first part is simply to understand that you have to draw however many rotations there are. So just drawing the end line isn't going to be the goal. The goal is to show with a little arrow, spirals. Sometimes you have to go around multiple times and then stop at the correct end point. So that's our first concept, is just drawing positive and negative angles, even if they have to rotate around multiple times. The second concept is what the notes packet says as the title, and that is coterminal. So the prefix co means together. So if you are like cooperating or you are co-captains, coterminal is going to mean that they end together. And so they stop at the same place. And so that would mean that 400 degrees and 40 degrees are coterminals. Because we both start here, and I'm old, so I just go 40 degrees and then I stop, and you're young, so you go all the way around and then you go 40 degrees and stop, we're going to be ending in the same place, shared ending. And so because we ended together, those two are coterminals. Well, everybody's had a little rebellious somebody or another in their life. So what if somebody else started and instead of going this way like we did, they went this way? Okay, well, they went in a negative direction and they stopped 40 degrees short of 360. So that would have been negative 320. But they ended in the same spot. And since we ended together, those are all coterminals. So these three angles are what we call coterminal. And to do them and to find them is super easy. You take your original theta and you either add or subtract 360 degrees as many times as you want to. So it's circular. So if I go, fresh start here, if I say I'm going to go to right here, 100 degrees. Okay, that's my angle. If I'm starting at 100 degrees, right there, one of my coterminals I could get by adding 360, which would put me at 460 degrees. And that would simply mean that somebody started out with the same direction because it's positive. There's 360, and then they kept going an additional 100 degrees. So I have a 100 degrees, which is the straight shot there, the 460s around and then over. I could go around twice and then stop there, or I could start here and go this direction, which would have happened if I did minus 360, like I'm going around the other direction. And so that would be a negative 260 degree angle. So if one moves 260 degrees in the negative direction, somebody moves 460 in the positive, and I go 100 degrees in the positive direction, we all end at the same spot. So that's our coterminals. So if you look at the worksheet, it's going to ask you to draw an angle, and you have to draw it accurately based on these 90, 80, 180s, and 270s. You have to have the spirals in there, however far that goes. And then it's going to ask you for a positive and a negative. What if I started, last thing, and then I'll let you go. What if I started with something really big? What if I started with like 1,000 degrees? And I'm trying to give a coterminal that's negative. Well, I would just keep taking away 360. That whole business about adding or subtracting 360 as many times as needed, that's where that comes in. So I would just keep taking away 360 until I get to something that's a negative answer. If that's what it's saying is give me a negative coterminal. Or I could add 360. 1360 is certainly going to be coterminal to this because it's one additional trip around. So those are the main concepts that are on our lesson for today. I'm just going to end this recording.